I have these nasties right now. I'm in A Christmas Carol, which I love. Grateful for it. It's a great show. But I just have to do that. And if I like position my face just right, I look like the lead singer of Fall Out Boy. When he went through that phase. What's going on with my life right now? Hello, welcome to Film Fireside. This video is dedicated to helping you, a perhaps casual moviegoer who has heard some buzz about the film Mank being released to Netflix and next little bit, or who also just has a Netflix account and is always excited to watch the new Netflix film coming out. The one coming out tomorrow is called Mank. It is directed by filmmaker David Fincher and stars Gary Oldman and Amanda Seyfried. The reason I wanted to do this video is titled Things You Need to Know Before Watching Mank. The reason I want to do this video is I've seen some reviews come out about this. Up front, this movie is up for Best Picture. Straight up. It's not nominated, but it's gonna be. It's gonna be. It will be. Just trust me, it will be. Having read some of the reviews about it, people who have gotten early screenings to this film, I'm reading a lot of people say the same thing, which is like, film historians and critics and people of the like will love it. Everyone else will not. And that makes me sad. Of course, I haven't seen the film, and when I do, I'll give my own review of it and give you my opinions of it. So there is that as well. But I wanted to do this video to just perhaps prepare you, the casual moviegoer who doesn't know much about the historical context of this film, and provide as much historical context as I can. So here are the things that I think you need to know before you watch Mank on Netflix. Number one, just watch Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane is a film that was released in 1941. It's directed by Orson Welles, and the screenwriter is Herman Mankiewicz, who Mank is about that screenwriter, and more specifically his process of coming up with the idea of Citizen Kane. You just need to go watch Citizen Kane. You can rent it just about anywhere. However, if you have YouTube TV or a DVR of the like, Turner Classic Movie Channel has just played it today even, and perhaps they may even be playing it again. I don't know for sure. I had it recorded though, and even then I think it's just on like a DVR thing, so you can go and find it even if you didn't record it. It's on Turner Classic Movies Channel. Go watch Citizen Kane. That is the most important thing. Okay, you've watched Citizen Kane. Now here's the thing about Citizen Kane that you need to know. I think it's safe to assume the Beatles are the greatest rock band ever. You don't have to have the Beatles as your favorite rock band, but the Beatles, if it's like the greatest rock band ever, they're the greatest rock band ever. You know what I mean? Citizen Kane is that in the film world. It's just the best movie that's ever been made. Now, the casual moviegoer hears that and goes, okay, I'll watch Citizen Kane. They watch Citizen Kane and go, whoop-de-frickin-do. What was so special about that? That's the thing about Citizen Kane, and it's actually kind of a compliment to the film in and of itself, is the things that have been done in Citizen Kane are so commonly done now that casual moviegoers watch Citizen Kane now and don't realize how revolutionary it was for the time, as far as cinematography goes, as far as story structure goes, and how often it's been repeated today. There's quite a bit of controversy behind this film as well, which is another reason it kind of that element also contributes to this film being the best film ever made. So this film was nominated for 9 Academy Awards, one of them being Best Picture. To just kind of give a premise to this film and the controversy behind it, they didn't used to televise the Academy Awards. They didn't start doing that till I think sometime in the late 40s, like early 50s, when they first started televising the Academy Awards. So this one wasn't televised, the one Citizen Kane was nominated for, which would have been the 1942 Academy Awards, I believe. When Citizen Kane was announced amongst the other films that were nominated for Best Picture that year, the entire audience booed. They booed. Yeah. And now it's the best movie ever made. What? So why? Why did they boo? What was the big deal with Citizen Kane? Why was everyone freaking out about Citizen Kane? So let's get into the main elements of the purpose of Citizen Kane, or even the intent going into Citizen Kane. And this is something to know about Herman Mankiewicz, more or less. From what I've read, just like the brief little elements of Herman Mankiewicz I've read, he was a very jaded person. And more specifically, was very jaded with Hollywood. The industry bothered him and annoyed him. It was such a stupid thing to him. And Herman Mankiewicz as well to a certain extent, some say he kind of got shafted for not getting enough credit for Citizen Kane. That's debatable, though. That's potentially refutable. My main rebuttal when someone mentions that is he's the only one who won an Academy Award for Citizen Kane, and that was for his screenplay, which he wrote. You know what I mean? There's debate back and forth that it was assumed Orson Welles tried to take more credit for Citizen Kane than he should have. And then some people are even saying straight up he should get no credit for the script of Citizen Kane because he didn't absolutely nothing. However, Orson Welles' secretary says that's not true because I helped him write a bunch of stuff down. He would spout stuff at me and I'd type it all out for him. So, you know, like that, there's a lot of drama and yada, yada, yada that goes along with that. Okay, now to get to the point, Herman Mankiewicz' script was originally intended to more or less tell the story or even come up with a story based on the life of William Randolph Hearst. William Randolph Hearst was a big newspaper tycoon at the time and a very controversial newspaper tycoon at the time. He was a very rich and powerful newspaper tycoon at the time, much to the disadvantage of many people. I could get into this, really get into this, and I advise you, go ahead and go down that rabbit hole. There is a lot of interesting stuff about what the film does to attack William Randolph Hearst, and also just his life in general. There's a lot of great documentaries and just resources on the internet. Literally YouTube William Randolph Hearst, Citizen Kane, and just hours of really fascinating stuff. But the one thing I will mention that just maybe sums it all up is the Spanish-American War is also known as Hearst's War. It's reported that he sent some reporters from his newspaper to go down and send a reporting of the contentions that's going on there. When said reporter came back to him basically saying, yeah, there is no war really to report, Hearst was famously quoted by saying, "You furnish the pictures and I'll furnish the war." So William Randolph Hearst used journalism and his power to send America into the Spanish-American War. Yikes. A man worth kind of attacking, more or less. To call it solely an attack on William Randolph Hearst would be doing the film a huge injustice. That is a huge part of the history and controversy behind it, and again, why it got booed at the Academy Awards. William Randolph Hearst had actually quite an influence in Hollywood. His mansion, Hearst Mansion, that he'd invite many celebrities to frequently, and it would help them get jobs, more or less, because he had the connections. His friends were all at the Academy. We're all attending the Academy Awards. So this film that's supposed to just make fun of their friend, William Randolph Hearst, yeah, they're going to boo that movie. You know? Whether it's for the interest of being, loyal to him because they genuinely like him, or trying to protect their position in Hollywood and their status in Hollywood. I'm going to put a pin in the whole William Randolph Hearst thing and that element of this. For now, I'm going to put a pin in that, and we'll come back to that in a second, because that, I think, is more what Mank is about. However, I think for elements of just appreciation of what this film might do, my guess anyway, just based on the trailer, it's important to note another reason why Citizen Kane is the best movie ever made. Like I said earlier, the common film goer watches Citizen Kane and goes, I've seen all this done before. What's so big about it? What's so special about this? And that's exactly it. You've seen all this done before, and because Citizen Kane is the one who more or less originated it. There's many elements that go into this. One is the writing. The screenplay of it is phenomenal. To have a non-linear story was very odd. It would constantly go back to his early days, and then it jumped forward to when he was old and getting ready to die, and then it goes back to his early days again, and it just kind of goes linear at some parts, then it goes back again, and it goes linear again. It jumps all over the place linearly, and the structure of that is genius, because the way information is presented and certain context is required as certain things are happening is brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. Something that hadn't been done before and now is constantly done in today's world. Constantly done in today's world of film. The other element too is just the cinematography shots in general. Just the cinematography of this was insane. Him and cinematographer Greg Tolan did things just revolutionary. Things that weren't even okay. There's a lot of shots that are from an up angle. So the camera's down here looking up at the individual. To accomplish that shot in a certain scene, it's reported that they straight up just cut a hole in the floor of the set and put the camera way down in there. Again, these were things that were like unconventional. I think it's also important to, before maybe I get too far into this, is to know Orson Welles, who he was. Orson Welles at this time, though, he's a 24-year-old kid. He directed a couple of Broadway plays and worked in radio. Most famously known for the whole War of the Worlds fiasco that you probably have heard about, the radio show that was doing War of the Worlds, which was already a book, but in the form of like a news announcement. So people thought it was a legitimate thing and kind of were freaking out about it. Orson Welles had never directed a film before, but he wanted to direct this movie. He and Herman Mankiewicz had known each other. I don't remember where. Most of the people from this film he had met just from his connections at the Mercury Theater Company, which is where he'd produced his plays that he'd put on. Him and Greg Toland just kind of did this together. According to Orson Welles, he was Orson Welles says, well, I don't really know much about this. I don't know why you'd want to work with me. And Greg Toland supposedly said, that's why I want to work with you, is because you don't have the, I'm supposed to do such and such and such and such and such and such. And Orson Welles himself has said that that's probably why Citizen Kane was so good. It's just because he was so ignorant to everything. Another thing that's, oh, there's a baby crying. Oh no. Do I need to help that baby? I don't know if that baby needs help. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. Baby needed help. And then I took a nap. So where was I? So, Greg Toland, Orson Welles did a lot of work together as far as the cinematography goes. And I think this is one, in fairness, I think maybe we give a little too much credit to Orson Welles, because Greg Toland is the cinematographer, and I imagine, he probably is the one who took Orson Welles' ideas and made them possible, you know what I mean? The third thing, as far as the main technical revolutionary element this film contributed to, is honestly special effects. A lot of the editing in this is fantastic. One of the things that was accomplished it's known as a deep focus shot. It's very common in film at the time. The background and stuff wasn't really important. It was all about getting right here, and most things behind were blurred. Kind of worked for that portrait shot more or less. Therefore, they'd use shot reverse shots a lot. Just close-ups too. They really like the close-up. Everything in the background is just as important as the things in the foreground. And not only that, he used images in the background as just part of his process, part of the story as well. There's a lot of technical elements of the film, and that's a rabbit hole that you could spend a lot of time on. You could really just dive down that rabbit hole, and I'll just go ahead and let you do that. Oh, the other thing is lighting, and this is something I say is attributed to Orson Welles. Lighting is the other thing that was really revolutionary here. His intentional lighting. Orson Welles, and you can see this even in his productions of some of his plays that he was directing in Broadway, he always had a very good eye for lighting and using shadows as well as the lighting on the stage. In these scenes in Citizen Kane, he does the exact same thing. Certain characters are kept in shadows specifically at certain times, or they're in shadows as they're saying something, but as a new idea comes in, they enter into the light.
Find out about Rosebud. Get in touch with everybody that ever knew him. Oh, who knew him well.
One of my favorite things is when Charles Foster Kane is writing his Declaration of Principles for his newspaper. The entire idea and the entire time he's in the dark. His face is in the dark as he's writing that down, suggesting that perhaps he isn't really going to be keeping these, or he isn't really genuine with these. Or even if he's genuine now, there's a grim, these will not survive in his future. It's very, very intentional things like that. A lot of the camera movement too was accomplished with the combination of oil paintings and as well as real sets together. So a lot of shots were layered on top of each other too, not just in the transitions, those blurred transitions. I'm talking Kane and his friend and partner Leland are having he's about to fire his partner, and you see Kane sitting at the typewriter and his friend Leland behind him. Those are actually two different shots combined into one. And the idea there was they wanted to keep the lighting of it going, but lighting Kane would have then made the light behind him not work so well. So they decided to just make it two different things. So when they're acting, they're not actually acting together at the same time. when they're performing those scenes, they just are performing to a black, like, nothing, and then they edited it together so it looked like they were. Yeah, things like this were just amazingly not unheard of at the time. Okay, so I've gone down that rabbit hole. Now let's go down the kind of feud between William Randolph Hearst and Orson Welles, because William Randolph Hearst buried this movie. William Randolph Hearst started with his paper, and in Citizen Kane fashion, started a smear campaign on Orson Welles, and the film got bad reviews too for being a bad movie. The ironic thing though is William Randolph Hearst doing this and attacking the film more or less kind of made him realize the character of Kane, more or less, at least in my opinion and many others' opinions, the fact that he was so adamant about burying this film and protecting his image. And that to me just made him solidify the exact problem with Kane and the narcissism of Kane. And now here's a third thing that I think you should know, because it's not talked about a lot. It is debated a little bit. There's a debate. There's like a theory of the movie that Orson Welles was trying to like depict himself, you know, as this character, and Orson Welles has refuted that, being like, no. I'm nothing like this man. That's not 100% true. I do not think it was an active artistic choice for Orson Welles to go into this and be like, you know, I'm going to make this character a lot like myself. However, Orson Welles' personality is so much in this character and just who he was in real life. I watched an interview with him. It's like an hour-long like documentary, and he does this really long interview for like, I think it's the BBC. And it was one of the last interviews before he died. And I don't know if they edited this intentionally, but I watched Citizen Kane shortly after this. And the things Citizen Kane does that you're like, oh my gosh, Citizen Kane, you know, oh my gosh, Charles Foster, I'm calling him Citizen Kane. His name is Charles Foster Kane. That's the name of the movie is Citizen Kane. The character is Charles Foster Kane. Anywho, the things Kane does in the movie and the things Orson Welles does in this interview are sometimes weirdly similar and like scarily similar, you know? So the thing that's fascinating about this to me is not just that, you know, William Randolph Hearst was attacked and this was a revolutionary film and yada, 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 yada. Orson Welles almost sealed his own fate in a weird way when he made this movie of becoming just that narcissistic person. He is said, you know, I mean, minus the money, he wasn't like nearly as rich necessarily, you know what I mean? But he was just such an arrogant, like, cocky person in his life, and we don't really talk about that often, honestly enough, you know what I mean? And that's something I've always kind of gathered from this film, and I don't know, to say I like Orson Welles is, I mean, kind of a stretch, you know? I don't really know how I feel about him, and that transitions into the next thing you need to know before watching Mank. David Fincher is not an Orson Welles fan. And this is the thing I want to get to, is I mentioned this earlier, Mank was, how he was more or less just not a fan of Hollywood. It's funny to see David Fincher then in the last year, he's getting ready to make Mank, talk about how unsatisfied David Fincher is with Hollywood. In an interview with IndieWire, I'll post the link to the interview here below, he is quoted as saying, "Unless you're making a tentpole movie that has a Happy Meal component to it, no one's interested." He's not wrong. The thing he says here, this film, Mank, is intended to be a critique on Hollywood now, looking at the critique Mankiewicz was making on Hollywood back in the 1930s and 40s. All right, to sum up, here's the things to know about before going to Mank. One, make sure you have watched Citizen Kane. That would help substantially. Know the history of Citizen Kane and recognize as much as you can what made Citizen Kane good. And just a lot of the history of the making of Citizen Kane can help a lot, and that's what this is diving into. Or maybe even critiquing or, you know, challenging perhaps some of this perspectives we have or the views we have of the making of Citizen Kane. Look for the technical elements of Citizen Kane being referenced here. Lighting, deep focus shots, perhaps even the same layers and the same techniques used in the 30s or used in the 40s will be used here in this film as well, intended to make it look like a film made at that time. That is something he's going to do. Those are the things I think you need to know before watching Mank. Those are most of the which I know, and that's getting me hyped for it. If you know of anything else that you think would be important to going into Mank or any other tidbit, please comment that below and let me know, and share that with other people as well. And let me know your thoughts on Mank when it comes out tomorrow. This will be fun. It'll be a fun movie. Thank you so much for watching. Comment, like, subscribe. It's on one of these sites. Do the thing. Bye.